College football nation. We are back and we are in mid-season form. Before we dive into today's slate, we got to congratulate Dave and the Phillies on a big win last night. What an exciting game.
Oh, man. If I don't have a great voice today, guys, there's a reason for it because I couldn't stop yelling after the comeback and then the last inning home run in the 10th. So, hey, but I'm here and I'm ready to do some college football because that's where we've been winning. Joel, you've been on fire. We've been giving out money picks. So let's do that while I get my voice back.
And let's keep the heater alive. Listen, the heater's alive not just for college football. Dave's Phillies are winning. The Giants are 6-1. The Eagles are undefeated. Everything we're about is winning right now. Let's keep that going this week. It's going to be a little bit of a quicker show. Obviously, it's the morning. We usually do it at night. So we apologize for the change-up, but we had a lot going on this week. So we're still going to get you some picks. We're going to go through the slate, give you who we're looking at. We'll start right away with the first game. The first game I'm looking at here is this Arkansas-Auburn game. This actually is a pretty good game to target. Yeah. These two teams, their typical SEC defenses, are not very strong. They're one of the weaker defenses actually in the country. So I think both sides of this game are attackable, but my favorite spot here are both running backs. I like Tank Bigsby on Auburn because this Arkansas team can't stop a nosebleed. And on the other side, I like Raheem Sanders, because they feed him the ball. He's a bell cow back, and this Auburn run defense is atrocious.
It is. I like KJ Jefferson as well for 6,300. He's had every game over 32 except one, and that was Bama. He was a little off in that game. But every other game, he's been fantastic at 6,300. I mean, you giving me 30, an average of 30, I'll take it. So, yeah, I like the running games, and you can mix it in with Jefferson because he runs.
There's about 4 or 5 quarterbacks above 8K that I like this week, and I feel like Jefferson should be in that range. You're getting him at 6,300. So he seems too underpriced this week for a plus matchup. All right, let's keep this moving over to the Oklahoma-Iowa State game. The Iowa State defense is pretty good. And, you know, the problem with this Oklahoma team is they still price them up like they're an elite offense. They are a good offense, but they're not as good as the pricing has them. So against a pretty good defense, I don't love the Oklahoma side. But on the other side of the coin, the Iowa State side is really underpriced, right? I mean, even from Brock to Deckers, their quarterback. I mean, Hutchinson's the most expensive receiver, but they throw to him every time. So I think there's plenty of shares of this Iowa State offense you can get exposed to.
I agree. And I love Hutchinson still. 7,400, yeah, but if you're gonna pay down for a quarterback, which you can in a few spots, I think you can get Hutchinson in there a lot. Oklahoma is a sieve. We know that. Don't take what we saw last week, even though, you know, Kansas made a late run at them. But, you know, I think Iowa State's going to put up points, even though they don't score much typically. Today's that day. I think Brock's a good pick as well. I don't like much on Oklahoma either. Iowa State's got a good day, and I just don't know if you can trust those salaries. Min 7,500, not versus a good day.
No, I agree. They're just priced up too high. They got to regulate the Oklahoma pricing for them to be playable again.
I agree. Even the backup quarterback, 7,800. Like, come on.
I can't even consider it at that price.
No.
All right, let's look at the TCU West Virginia game. I think this is going to be a really interesting game. West Virginia has shown they produce ideal game environments for DFS. They can't stop anyone. They tend to keep the pace alive and move in. So this is definitely a game on target. And that alone, Max Duggan has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country for DFS purposes. I mean, he can get there with his legs. He's a good thrower. He's got a premier receiver. There's a lot to like about this game. I'll start on the TCU side with Duggan's one of my favorite plays of the week. I mean, they're pricing him up a little bit more. He's still worth paying for. He can get it done with his legs and with his arm. I like Quentin Johnson, who's his best receiver, who they've been getting involved. He disappointed a bit last week, but he's the go-to guy. He's break the slate potential, so I'm totally fine going back to him.
Yeah, I like what you said on the TCU side. Very solid. I think they put up a ton of points against West Virginia. So lock in on the big guys, and Duggan's worth that 8,500 this week. On West Virginia, I mean, the only one I'm really looking at is Bryce Ford-Wheaton. You know, again, you talked about Johnson getting all the targets. This is the same with West Virginia. Really focuses, JT Daniel focuses on one. 6,700 is fair for me. I think it's a good number. So that's about the only guy I'm interested in West Virginia.
I will add from the West Virginia side. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just couldn't see his comment.
See ya.
Yeah, you don't have to be taught. He's doing it.
I was just going to add from the West Virginia side, CJ Donaldson. He's their rookie back. He disappointed the last couple of weeks, but we've seen he has the ability to really break and explode in a really positive game environment and a pretty affordable 5,200 salary. If you're getting really exposed to this game, he's the guy at West Virginia I might look to.
Yeah, but I'd stay away from JT, don't you? I mean, the price is decent, but I just don't have I don't trust him to put up a big number.
The thing with JT is he doesn't really run, and he doesn't have they have pretty good receivers, but he's got to throw at least 3 touchdowns to be worth playing. I mean, he only done that once this year, so
yeah,
I'm not sure that he makes sense. All right, let's move over to the Georgia Tech Florida State game. I'll just be honest with you, not much I like here.
No, I'm fine with that. Quarterback too high. Travis is a good player. He's not a $8,200 player on this slate. So Johnny Wilson is someone I always fall back on with Florida State. Big receiver, will play in the pros one day. 6,100 is kind of that point that I don't love, though. So I'm probably off most of this game.
I'm with you on that. Now, this Notre Dame Syracuse game has some interesting options because I just like some of these playmakers, right? They priced down Schrader, and Schrader is a running back as well as a quarterback. He's not a great thrower, but he's a great runner. And so you can get 100 yards and a score to him on the ground. If he just throws you 200 and 1 or 2 touchdowns to go with his running at under 6K, he's easily going to make value. Now, this Notre Dame defense isn't nothing to scoff at. They're not bad, but they're not like their powerhouse that they used to be. You can beat them. We saw Drake May have a big game against them. And I think at under 6K, Schrader is an interesting option here.
I agree. Listen, there's stories around Syracuse last week. How does Sean Tucker only run the ball 5 times?
Yeah.
And you lose a game that you're up 21-7. They got away from him. And it's not that he was bad. He was averaging 11 yards a carry. So it was interesting that they went away from that strength that they have. So I think this is a running week. I think they're going to somehow force it. And I like Tucker, and I also like Schrader. I'm with you. I think Schrader will run a lot, too. I think they're going to try and dominate this game on the ground because Dino Babers listens to the fans, and I think he's going to readjust. So I like him. And then, obviously, on the other side, Meyer's still in price, right? 5,600. We can't go away from him. I remember the Purdue game, Syracuse. Tight ends are having a decent time against Syracuse. So I would play Meyer for sure.
Yeah, no, Myers, they continually underprice him. If you want to take a dart throw GPP play, Logan Diggs seems to be emerging as maybe the go-to guy in this Notre Dame backfield. He looks like he's the most talented. If he is at the price that they have him at, I think he's 3,900. That's insane. Yep. It's a dart throw because he could end up getting 5 carries. So you got to take a chance there, but there is some good potential. And of course, the last guy we just have to mention is Gadsden, who seems to be a premier receiving option. So, especially if you want to pair him with Schrader, you can play him alone. But Gadsden's a stud.
Yeah, playing alone is just fine. You're right. Just the way the Schrader goes. Yep.
All right, let's move over to this Ohio State Penn State game. I just read this morning that Smith-Njigba is going to be out of playing, which kind of just makes it easier for you to know, you can get all your shares of the Ohio State passing game toward Marvin Harrison Jr. and Egjuba. I think both are in play, especially knowing that they want to have Smith-Njigba. Now the shares will be there. This Penn State run defense is solid, so I think I'd want to go with the passing attack. That's my preference in this spot, and I'll probably play a combination of both those guys in some way or form.
I like it. Penn State rush defense was solid until they found Michigan and let up 420 yards to that machine. But I agree with you. Every other game this year has been under 100. They held Bigsby pretty well out of Auburn. So I could get in there with some Henderson, but I don't want to – it's going to be a low share because I think the passing game is going to be electric. I'm off Stroud, though. I just think 9,200 is a little much, but I'll play the receiver game. Like you said, those two, Harrison and Egbuka, looking great. Maybe even Fleming. Fleming's that deep ball threat. Down to 5,100. He's paid off a few weeks, averaging almost 18 DK points. So that's probably where I draw my chalk line, but those 3 are in play for me for sure. And on the other side, as long as Clifford's there, I can't play anything in the Penn State passing game. Maybe Singleton, but he just – look, we love Singleton. He's going to be a great player. They're just not using him enough.
Yeah, and you got to realize this Ohio State defense is solid. So, It's not like this is the traditional game environment play where it's like, I like these Ohio State guys. Let me go back to Penn State because Ohio State can stop people and they can score and then maybe not get back. So I agree. I think the Penn State receiver is a little overpriced. I agree. Singleton's the guy who's the most explosive. So if there is one, he maybe could break a couple and make his price. But I'm not all that interested in the Penn State side.
Yep.
All right, let's move over to this Rutgers, Minnesota game. Maybe Ibrahim because he's a stud and he's been priced down. So I like Ibrahim even though the Rutgers D is solid. Other than that, I'm just not interested in this game.
Yep, Ibrahim or nothing. I'm in.
Yeah. All right, Georgia, Florida. So this is an interesting one. This is actually a good environment for fantasy because Florida stinks on defense and they can score. I never want to target anyone against Georgia because this is one of the best defenses in the country. So I'm not really looking on the Florida side at all. And there's not really a good spot to look at Florida. I mean, they spread the ball around anyway, so they don't want to attack a good defense of that team. On the Georgia side, I'm okay with you playing someone. The problem is Georgia also spreads it around. There's not like one guy to look to. So even though it's a good spot for them against a pretty bad Florida defense, they're priced up. I'm not really sure who the target is. I think my only suggestion would be, and I'm something in the backup running back on Georgia who seems to be Edwards. Edwards is kind of, if the third running back's out, he'll maybe get a few more carries. So at 4,100, because he's priced down, I might be interested. But other than that, I don't think I could play anyone else.
Yeah, and it's a shame. We talk about Meyer every week, 5,600, one of the best tight ends in football. And then you look at Brock Bowers, and you got to pay $1,000 more for a guy that is an awesome football player, but averages probably 7 to 8 points less than Meyer, has had 2 breakout games, 2 games above 30. Everything else is 11 or less, and that's just not reliable for us at 6,600. So I'm with you. They spread it around too much. Bennett is interesting to me because if you get in a game environment that this one at least, is a track meet, like it probably should be with Florida's defense, I could play Bennett. I could play him alone.
Yeah. I think you're right. The one thing I'll add about Bowers is when we played him earlier in the year and he had that one breakout game, we got a little lucky because he ran for 2 touchdowns, which is not going to happen again. He doesn't run the ball. So that was like a lucky spot we hit on, but their game in script and play calling, it's just not an environment where it's set up for him to keep kind of blowing up. So it's just a hard game to target for us here.
Yep.
We'll move over to the Oregon-Cal game. Oregon has been unbelievable. I don't care that we keep missing. I'm still not playing Bo Nix. It just doesn't. I mean, it keeps hitting, but I don't.
He's more than Stroud. He's worth more than Stroud. Oh,
I mean, at this point, I got to give him some credit. I mean, he's justified it. He's coming through, but the way he's doing it is in a way that's like it doesn't seem replicable for an entire season. And I guess it's halfway through already, and he's been doing it. And it's kind of the same argument you would make for my Giants, right? Where it's like, it doesn't seem like they can keep doing this every week, but they do. So
they are, yeah.
At this point, at the price, if Nix was in the 8Ks, I'd consider him. But at this price, he can't.
No,
too much. And they're the same. They spread the ball out. If you want to consider their running back, maybe I can see him and get some volume. But other than that, they spread the ball around too much. And then on the other side of the ball in this game, Cal's like a slower defensive team. They're not a team that looks to be very explosive. The only guy on the Cal team I might look to is their receiver Sturdivant, who is their go-to guy at 5,200. And if it does become Oregon scoring a lot, they need to catch up. He could have a breakout game for that price.
Yeah, I agree. That's the only play I'll probably touch on Cal, if anything. But I like that call. I will consider Troy Franklin. He had a huge game. He was probably on the winning lineup last week for most teams. I had him a little bit in some shares, but Troy Franklin, I'll consider. He finally broke out last week. Bucky Irving's the running back you talked about. Got 19 carries. First time this year. He's seen over 12. So can they keep that? I don't know. So I'm going to wait and see. But, yeah, Franklin on Oregon, Sturdivant on Cal.
Yep. I love it. All right, the OK State KSU game. The problem with this game is we don't know about Adrian Martinez, and you're going to need to know about him because he's a big deal for this game. If he plays, he's in a great spot, but then how healthy is he? Because, you don't want to play a guy who's not really fully healthy. If he's ruled out, I think the backcourt, Howard, becomes interesting because this is probably the best DFS environment playing against Oklahoma State secondary, who's just atrocious. So you want to get some shares here. None of these receivers are that interesting. I mean, if you want to throw a dart or two on one of them in one of your lineups and Knowles or Brooks, I'm okay with it, but they're not a team I'm going to prioritize because they spread the ball around. I'm also okay with Kendra Miller. Kendra Miller. Now I'm confusing teams.
Deuce Vaughn.
Deuce.
Yep.
Deuce Vaughn's one of the best backs in the country. He has been slowed down a little bit recently. He hasn't been as good as we'd like, but he's going to be there. I mean, we've seen him do it every year. So is this the week? It could be. In a good game environment, I could see him breaking out at 7K. And then on the other side, Spencer Sanders is a play every week. He's a running back and a quarterback in the low 8K range. He's priced fairly. And I would play him with Green. Green has been his go-to guy the last 2 weeks. He's affordable 5,400. I'm totally fine with going back to Green here to pair with Sanders.
Yeah, threw 57 times last week. If you're worried about his shoulder or his, whatever he has going on up there, don't worry if they're slinging it 57 times. So Sanders is definitely in play, 8,300. He's going to have to do something similar this week. That was Texas last week. K-State's going to play that same type of game where they're going to have to go back and forth with how bad Oklahoma State's defense is. So I do love Sanders in this. And I think Vaughn has his breakout game of the year. OK State is like ranked 200th or more against running backs this year. They're letting up big games here and there. So as bad as their pass D is, I think Deuce could have a big game on the ground and in the pass game.
That's true. They throw to him too. Yeah, Deuce is a big weapon. All right. And now this Wake Louisville game was the first game I circled when the slate came out because it's just this is the definition of a great DFS environment. I mean, first of all, Hartman is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They're explosive on offense. You can get involved. My favorite two receivers are Perry and Banks. Those are their go-to guys. You want to get Green involved, I'm okay with it. But Perry and Banks are I'm going to prioritize with Hartman. I don't target the Wake Forest running game much. And then on the other side, Cunningham is explosive. He'll run the ball. He's going to have him playing from behind is like the ideal scenario where he's going to have to catch up, throw, run. He's going to be making plays all over the place. I'm definitely going to have lineups where I intentionally just have this game environment, right? Cunningham, Hartman, some of those receivers all together. I'm thinking this could be the like 44, 38 type game of the week. In terms of pairing with Cunningham, they spread it out. They don't really have an explosive receiver. The one guy I might look at because he's cheap is Ford, who's their tight end.
Yeah.
Hoping to catch a touchdown or so. But other than that, that's what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I agree. Cunningham could be it could be Cunningham and no one else. Like, that's just the way he plays. And versus Wake, I could see that. I'm off Wake's running game. Like you said, it's more of a show. That long delayed handoff, but it's all Hartman and it's all receivers. It was interesting. Last week, Moran actually blew up for them. And he's like the fourth or fifth option. Don't feed into that. I'm with you. I think you stay at the top with Perry Green. It was like 4 catches, but 2 were touchdowns. You can't sustain that. Stick with the good guys if you're going into this lineup. Stick with the Wake Forest studs.
I totally agree. All right. Illinois, Nebraska. This Illinois defense is solid. I don't want to look at Nebraska too much. The only play I'll consider is they give Illinois gives their running back like 40. Literally, they gave him 40 carries like 2 weeks ago. It was insane. So if you want to go to Chase Brown at 7,500, I think he's still, even though he's the most expensive back, I think he's still at an affordable price for the amount of work he'll get against a pretty bad defense.
Yeah, I agree. Illinois is tough. They're a tough-nosed team. I probably not playing much in this game. I mean, Brown for sure. Nebraska's D's terrible, but not much from the Nebraska side.
I totally agree. The last game to look at for this week is the Cincinnati Central Florida game. Both of these teams are better than people give them credit for, and they're both not probably great from a fantasy environment. I'm probably going to be, for the most part, off this game. Maybe a share or two of McClellan, Cincinnati's running back, because he can break off a few big runs.
Yep.
And then on the UCF side, I'm not going to be playing Plumlee. I can understand someone getting around him because of his running ability, but I just think it's not for me.
Yeah, McClellan's my favorite on this side. I'm with you. They actually, it's an environment where he is the number one, no question. So you don't get that much anymore in college. So I like McClellan. Bowser, I mean, since he hasn't been great on D, like you said, and 6,500 for Bowser, again, a guy that's averaging about 18 to 19 touches a game, I could get maybe a little bit on Central Florida with Bowser. I do not like their passing game.
I agree. I can see Bowser getting there. That's a good call. That's a wrap. That's it for us this week. I know it was a quicker show this week. Don't forget, you can sign up at Win Daily for $5.99 a week. It's basically nothing. And we're giving you plays for the NFL, for college football. The PGA team has been hot. I mean, every sport, you're getting picks, you're getting plays. We're getting hot and winning. So sign up, come follow us, give us a look on Twitter, hit the like button, come back next week and let us know how you did.
Awesome.
All right, good luck.